What's up everybody, Sunkist here, and in today's video we're going to be comparing Overdrive, Psychobuff, and Psychotats to see which one is better, how different they are, and that sort of stuff. The results are actually going to surprise you quite a bit, so stick around for that. But before I get into those tests, let me know in the comments which one do you think is best and which one do you run normally. Catch you at the end. Just a quick overview on all these chems before I get into the testing here. Overdrive is going to give you plus 15% non-crit damage and plus 30% crit damage for 3 minutes. Psychobuff is going to give you plus 25% damage, plus 3 strength, plus 3 endurance, plus 65 max health for 3 minutes. Quite a bit of stuff there. Am I alluding to what I prefer? Maybe. We'll see at the end. And Psychotats, plus 25% damage, plus 15% damage resistance, or damage resist, and plus 3 perception for 3 minutes. Alright, so for the first test here, we're going to use the Gatling Plas. We'll test all 3 chems, that being Overdrive, Psychobuff, and Psychotats. But here's the roll on my Gatling Plas. And here's a look at the build. The only thing that's adding damage here is going to be a few of the Heavy Gunner perks. Nothing in Charisma. I don't want to have Tenderizer. I think that could potentially skew some of the results. We do have some of the cards here to utilize the Furious mechanic. And then we have stuff for our critical damage. And I have an account that is sharing Bloody Mess. So we'll test full stack of Furious, or full stack of Onslaught with regular hits, and then a full stack of Onslaught with critical hits, and see what we get here. So, all right, testing the baseline here. Let's see. We'll have our Furious stacks here. 20. All right, we're hitting 869. 869. And for crits, looks like 2060. We'll start with Psychobuff. Go ahead and take that and see what we get for normal damage on that. Got to build our stacks really quick here. So we have 20. All right, so it looks like we're hitting 958 or so. And then for crits, we're hitting 2129. All right, for the next test, we're going to go ahead and take some Psychotats. So same as last time, we'll get our full stack of Onslaught and see what sort of damage we do without crits, and then we'll test with crits. So full stack of it there. Looks like we're hitting 958, which I think is the same. Yep, 958. Now let's give some crits a try. 2129. So it is exactly the same between Psychobuff and Psychotats. So the difference there is going to really be the other benefits that you're looking for with those chems. Alright, testing Overdrive now. So let's get our stacks up here. 20, 922. Okay, 922. And for crits, looks like 2184. All right, here's going to be our test for the baseline on the single action revolver. No chems will be taken for this one, but here's the roll, what I'm using for this weapon. Here is the build. Didn't really change much other than swapped a few perks out so that I could run Gunslinger Master to get the reverse onslaught. And I also got out of power armor so I could utilize my unyielding armor because I was not able to hit anything because my perception was too low. With the single fire weapon here. So let's go ahead and test a crit and a non-crit on this. If I can actually hit it. Okay, there we go. 3100 damage and 6043. All right, first chem test is going to be Psychobuff. So let's see how we do with that. If I can hit it. Okay, 3290 and 6233. All right, let's check the Psychotats now. Oh, I just depleted my health, I guess, but we'll see what we do here. $32.90, $62.30. Last, and I guess we'll find out if it's least or not, is going to be Overdrive. So same as last test. We'll see if we can get just a baseline hit without crit damage. Okay, 3214 and 6385. All right, now that the tests are done, let's get into the results. A few things to just explain here. What I have logged down is how much damage a crit did and how much damage a non-crit did. And then what I ended up doing was totaling the damage required to get to a crit. So essentially every 2 shots, if you're able to crit every other shot, you're going to do 29 damage for this, Gatling Plas here. For the Gatling Plas as well, if you're able to crit every 3rd shot, you would require 2 normal shots and then the crit, so you're doing 3798 damage every 3rd shot. So that's what that means. Most people are critting every other shot on endgame builds, whether that is because of +2 luck on your armor, unyielding armor, or limit breaking, or any combination of those things. Most people kind of, I guess, meta endgame are critting every other shot. If that's the case for you, then Overdrive will net you the most damage every 2 shots. So for the Gatling Plasma, that's 3087 versus the 3106 that Overdrive gives, which is only about 20 damage, honestly, and not very much, but it does give you more damage. And down to the single action revolver, if you're critting every other shot with Psychobuff and Psychotats, you're going to be doing 9523 per 2 shots, and with Overdrive, you're going to do 9599 every 2 shots. So again, only, what is that, about 70 extra damage per 2 shots. And interestingly enough, once you are critting less often, so if you crit every 3rd shot, you're actually going to be doing more damage with Psychobuff and Psychotats, as you can see there. And interestingly enough, on the single action revolver, if you crit every 3rd shot, Psychobuff, Psychotats, and Overdrive will net you the same amount of damage per 3 shots. So if your only concern is, I guess, hitting a high number on your crits, Overdrive is going to be the way to go. But I personally would like to make the case as to why Psychobuff is the best chem in Fallout 76, especially if you're playing as a bloodied character. So Psychobuff gives a damage buff. It gives +3 strength, which will buff your carry weight, both directly because of the strength and indirectly if you're running strong back. That is scaled based on your strength, so that will kind of multiply there a little bit. But you also get +3 endurance and +65 max health, which both of those things are going to buff your total health, and when you're playing bloodied, will increase the, I guess, 20% health pool that you're kind of operating at when you're bloodied. So for me, the sacrifice of 20 damage every 2 shots on the Gatling Plas and the sacrifice of 70-ish damage every 2 shots in the single action revolver is definitely worth the extra kind of goodies you get with it. And I will be continuing to use Psychobuff going forward. It's way easier to get. You get a ton of Psycho and buff out from doing the raids, so you can just craft it yourself really easily. And Overdrives don't drop as often. They're hard to farm materials to craft. So I'm Team Psychobuff all the way, and I hope everybody else is too. I know the sentiment for a long time has been that Overdrive is just so much better than everything else, and I am not really seeing the case there. Maybe there's stacking of other buffs that I was not able to test that kind of widens the gap here, and I'd love to see that and hear it in the comments if you, I guess, have any insight on that. But let me know if you've learned anything new today. I really had a ton of fun testing this out, and let me know if there's any other sort of tests you'd like to see me do in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.